Hi everyone. This is my first lecture on indirect taxation. I have introduced about myself in my previous video. You can ask all your doubts through my either to my WhatsApp number or to the comment section below. WhatsApp number is mentioned in the description below. So let's go to GST. The first chapter, as displayed in the screen, I am using, first of all, I would like to introduce the methodology of my teaching. I'll be taking classes based on the study material provided by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. ICA study material will be followed by myself. Why? Because ICA study material, the new study material provided by ICA is one of the best study material available. It is explaining in a very simple manner, and I'll be helping you to go to the syllabus. And after my lecture, if you read yourself, you can read and recapitulate. You can understand it very faster. Okay, let's start. The first chapter is GST in India, an introduction. What is GST? GST is a short form for goods and service tax. So we have in India there are so many taxes. Let us divide the taxes into two: direct tax, indirect tax. Before explaining what is these two things, I'll ask another question: why do we need a taxation system? There are many countries in the world, especially Middle East, where like India, the state doesn't have much revenue apart from taxation. So, uh, why state should collect revenue? State is obliged to provide education, healthcare, public transportation facilities, etc. And for providing all these facilities, government requires money. The state government and the central government requires money. And to provide money, to provide revenue for the government, we need taxation system. In India, we have direct taxation and indirect taxation. Apart from that, through the shares in various public sector companies, etc. Now we are here to learn indirect taxation, GST. Here in the second page, they give an overview of the chapter. Let us just go through the overview. GST in India, the overview is, first I'll be explaining what is direct taxation and indirect taxation, which I'll go through. I'll be explaining what is it. Features of indirect taxation. Genesis of tax, GST in India. GST. Need for GST in India. Framework for GST as introduced in India. Benefits of GST. Constitutional provisions. So, why do we need a tax? Let's begin. As a background, I told tax is required for the state to function and for achieving to undertake such obligation, it requires revenue, and the source of fund for the state is taxation. Now let's see what is a classification: direct taxation, indirect taxation. What is direct taxation? Direct taxation is directly imposed on tax. It's the normal definition that we give. I'll give some examples which you will get a clear understanding. I am a salaried person. When I am a salaried person, I get salary for the work I do for the company. This income, I work and I get income. This income will be taxed on my hand. That is direct taxation. So the tax burden is on the person who earns the income. So that's why it is called as direct taxation. Direct taxation is tax who is liable to pay. Since I earn income, I am liable to pay tax. That is direct taxation. So direct taxation can be for income earned from salary, income earned from various house properties, income from various business organizations or profession that a person undertakes, and various capital gains that a person earns, also from dividend, etc. We are not learning direct taxation here. We are learning indirect taxation. Sorry for the notification sound. That is, I'm using my mobile phone for recording all these classes, and so I'll next time I'll be avoiding all such sounds. Let's continue. Indirect taxation is a tax that is not collected from the person who undertakes a burden. For example, when we purchase a commodity from a shop, we purchase at MRP or the price which the company is selling. That includes taxation. That includes an amount which also includes tax amount. This tax is not paid by myself. It is paid by the shopkeeper, but I am having the burden on it. So that is why it is called as indirect taxation, because tax is paid by the shopkeeper, but the burden of taxation is on me, the customer. That is a simple classification between, that is a simple explanation between direct taxation and indirect taxation. We value added tax. Customs is still continuing. Excise duty, except few products, excise duty is not there now. And now many of this excise duty and VAT and service tax is combined to form GST, which I will explain later on. Okay. In this page, instrument materials difference between direct taxation and indirect taxation with a very good picturization. Let's read that. Direct taxation: the person paying the tax to the government directly bears the incidence of tax. Very good example is the example which I told. I am working for a private company. I earn income. I pay tax. So I bear the burden of taxation. That is direct taxation. It is progressive in nature. What is progressiveness? Indirect tax will not be charged on every person. Rich or poor doesn't taxation. Only rich people require to pay taxation. That is direct. That is one of the nature of direct taxation in India. So in India, direct taxation is progressive in nature because not everyone requires to pay tax. Only those person who earns income higher than a particular limit needs to pay taxation. That too have different slabs. For example, a person having income up to 5 lakh may pay a lesser rate tax, and a person having more than 10 lakhs will pay higher rate tax. That is how it is designed in India. Indirect tax, the person who have the burden of taxation is not the person who pays the tax. Earlier I given an example of a customer. I am a customer buying materials from various shops. When I purchase this material, I pay the price price of the commodity. This price includes tax amount, which I am not paying to the government. The seller, the shopkeeper pays to the government. So the person who takes a burden does not pay the tax, so it is known as indirect taxation. Indirect taxation, as per second point, it is regressive in nature. Regressive in nature because all the person, irrespective of his income category, requires to pay indirect taxation. So indirect taxation, every person, every customers, whatever be his income nature. Then, so we may feel the direct taxation is more fair than indirect taxation, but currently the government is earning more from indirect taxation than direct taxation. So here the picture is there where direct taxes means the person who burden of tax is borne by the person himself, where indirect taxation burden is shifted to another person. That's a very good explanation. Major direct and indirect taxation. In direct tax, we have income tax. Earlier, we have a tax called wealth tax, which is now not there. In direct tax, we have goods and service tax and customs duty. Even some part of excise duty is also there. That is not mentioned here still. Now, features of indirect taxation. Indirect taxation, as I told before, is an important source of revenue. Now, the current government is earning more from indirect taxation rather than direct taxation. It is tax on commodities and service. It is not on income but on commodities and service. So the important sorry, the important term used is supply service. Then the tax incidence comes. It is levied on commodities at the time of manufacture or purchase or sale of import or export thereof. Hence, it is known as commodity taxation. It is known as commodity taxation. It is also levied on provision of services. Shifting of burden, that is what I told. Let us give a chain of transaction. I am a manufacturer of some commodity. Let me say, I am a manufacturer of this headset. What I do, I manufacture this headset, sell this to a wholesaler for 500 rupees. So let's, for simplicity, assume the tax rate is 10%. So I sell this for 500 plus taxation, that is 10 rupees. 500 plus 10% is 50 rupees taxation. So I sell to a wholesaler for 550 rupees and I pay 50 rupees to the government. This commodity from the manufacturer, and I will sell this to retailer for 600 rupees plus GST. So 600 plus 60. I will be selling this to retailer for 600 plus 60, that is 660. And I'll be, since I paid 550 to the wholesaler, I already paid 550 to wholesaler. So tax amount difference is 10 rupees. That is, I pay to wholesaler 50 rupees as taxation. I collect from retailer 60 rupees. So the difference 10 rupees is to be paid to the government. That is the duty of retailer. That is the duty of wholesaler. This same thing will be done to the retailer. So let's say like, if I am the retailer, I purchase the commodity for 60 rupees, 600 rupees plus GST. Then I sell this for 700 rupees. So my selling price is 700, that is 770 rupees. But I purchase for 660 rupees. So that's just 70 minus 60. 10 rupees I will pay to the government and I'll collect 7 rupees from the customer. I'll collect 70 rupees from the customer and pay 10 rupees to the government. 60 rupees plus 600 rupees will be paid to the wholesaler. This is how the transaction goes. So we are shifting the burden of taxation to the ultimate customer, because when the tax will be collected by each and every person and paid to the government, and the ultimately person who suffers the burden of taxation is the ultimate customer. That is what is known as shifting of burden. Perception of direct page. We are not what is the, we will not be knowing what is the tax. If you are looking at the invoice, you'll be knowing what is the tax amount. Else we are just purchasing at MRP, so we won't feel that we have paid a tax unless we see the invoice and verify that. It is inflationary in nature because at every stages the government is collecting amount as taxation, so it is increasing the value of commodities, so it's inflationary in nature. It will have wider tax base, because indirect taxation, one of the biggest problem is a lot of people are tax base. Why? Because tax slab for taxation is there is a slab for taxation. All those people who comes below that slab of taxation need not pay tax. So the majority of people are actually not taxpayers in India. So only few tax, because there's a slab and those people who earns more than the slab need to pay tax. But in case of indirect taxation, it is a wider tax base, because all our customers, every person will consume something, and for all the products that is consumed except for some necessities, it is taxed. GST is collected for almost all the commodities. So that's why we call it is a wider tax base. It promotes social welfare. High taxes are imposed on consumption of harmful products, also known as sin products, such as alcoholic products, tobacco products. These products, government will pay higher, will charge higher tax. So it directly discourages people from purchasing these commodities. So promotes social welfare. It is regressive nature. I explain what is regressive in nature. It is difference between progressive and regressive is progressive means people, all those people, progressive in nature. I explained earlier that what is the difference between progressive taxation and regressive taxation. Progressive taxation means not everyone needs to pay tax. All those people who are rich, that is known as progressive taxation. Regressive taxation means everyone requires to pay tax. Fine. Thank you. We'll meet in the next class. If you have any queries, please mention that in comment section, or also message me in WhatsApp number that is being mentioned in the description below. Thank you.